Listeners be advised. The Soliloquy podcast discuss matters related to the human experience and many that are sexual in nature. Due to this, some conversations may surround triggering topics such as sexual violence, self-harm, abuse, and much more. Please be advised, a list of crisis and psychological resources will be available in the show notes of this episode. With that said, let's get started with the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention please as we go through the following safety instructions.
In the event that there is a loss of cabin pressure, oxygen mask will drop from the overhead. Place the mask over your nose and mouth. Breathe normally as oxygen is flowing even if the mask is not inflated. Be sure to adjust your own mask before helping others.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Soliloquy podcast, where we step out and speak about sexuality. This is your favorite host, Vernon T. Scott, also known as Slaytor Jackson, and for you freaky motherfuckers out there, Sebastian Adams. On today's episode, we are talking about sex work, and I have the pleasure of having Fortis back on the line so we could just discuss this issue in detail. How are you doing today, good sir?
I'm doing fine. How about yourself?
I'm doing fabulously. It's a beautiful day. I want to take a nap though, but other than that, it is great. It doesn't feel so hot outside, which I appreciate. It's
Mm.
a little bit cloudy, and it feels good inside. So I will have to say, all in all, it's a very beautiful day. It's a very beautiful day. So sex work. Actually, before we go into that, um, do you mind reminding everybody about, just a brief intro of who you are, what you do, and stuff like that, just so that they can get a feel for you?
Okay. Hey, how y'all doing? My name is Fortis. And once again, I would like to give a great pleasure to reintroducing the one and only podcast, Slaytor Jackson, and his amazing work and what he has done to contribute to allowing people to sexually express themselves. But I do work, I'm currently a student who's trying to work towards getting their master's. But I also just took out the time and trying to, I guess, find myself on this journey, on this sexual journey, but also self-love journey. So I think it's a great pleasure and a great thing to be amongst this. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. We're very happy to have you with us. So, sex work, the thing that I am low-key a part of, but not also a part of, but really I am a part of. But we're not going to talk
Hmm.
about that. But we are going to end up talking about that. I'm just confusing the fuck out of everybody because, hey, shit be confusing. Um,
Right.
one of the things that before we even, while we were drafting up this episode, we were just talking about our admiration of sex workers and our appreciation towards those who are in that field. Uh, would you like to share some of that sentiment with everybody about just how you are grateful or just how you admire what they do and their contributions to your life?
Oh yes. As a matter of fact, I do feel like sex work is very is overconsumed, but it's also underappreciated. And what I mean by that is many times people don't really give them enough credit for what they're doing. Honestly speaking, people are like to demean them, like to objectify them that to people in that profession. And I think it's not very much fair when, humans themselves, this whole profession has started since the dawn of civilization. And I think people have to respect the whole thing behind sex work. Yes, sex work can be very objectifying. It can be to some extent. But the overall objective of sex itself is to seek pleasure and ecstasy and the enjoyment of being a human overall. It's a form of a relief. It's a form of relief. And that's one of the things that I do appreciate people who has taken out the time and actually allowing people to do that. So I do think people really need to respect sex workers and the profession that it is because it's not really an easy profession to be in. So that's one of the things I do want to reiterate. But also, I think another thing that I want to talk about is that besides the sex workers, I think we need to discuss the consumer part of it. Because I think they are the ones that are not talked about they're not talked about often.
Mm, that's a good point right there. What about the consumers? Let's talk about it.
Yes. So as a matter of fact, so there's many things I have learned over the past few years. Now, what's crazy is that many workers are under scrutiny about what they do for a living,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not right whether they're a male, a woman, a man or a woman, or whatever you identify as. But what's very interesting is that many people who said the same people who actually criticize them are the same people who actually support their work, yet they objectify them and make them feel less than what they are. It's
Mm,
dehumanizing in a way because many of the consumers themselves feel as if they feel guilty. It's a guilty pleasure for them. So
mm-hmm.
they don't like the fact that they are actually attracted or they have that level of desire for something that they feel like is taboo. And I think a lot of times that what people don't realize that consumers are among our very worst. They're worse than sex workers because they are enabling certain things to happen. This is one of the many reasons why it's very important that we oftentimes be aware of what we surround ourselves with because oftentimes consumers are what has created an unsafe environment for the sex workers.
Mm,
Many times they have these undesirable fetishes and it's not very good for anyone. It really compromises the whole thing of sex itself. That's why I think another thing it was very important to discuss this because a lot of people don't realize that consumers of sex, they are oftentimes the problem within this industry. It's not the sex workers. Sex workers are only doing what they're doing best. They're providing a service, and that's completely fine and dandy. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you have consumers that are in place and they ask for these certain things, and then on top of that, they don't respect them, that's when it becomes a huge issue. This is
mm-hmm.
where you end up getting high crime rates where sometimes some of them are often killed. Some people are raped and everything to that nature, especially within the LGBTQA plus community, and then it happens to women as well. So I think it needs to be discussed more often because people don't really take out the time to really penalize the consumers of sex work. They
Mm.
are so quick to play the blame game onto the sex workers themselves when quite frankly it's the consumer that has to take full some accountability of it.
I'm with you 100%. I think often back to, just in terms of sex trafficking victims, where you have, the pimp, the John, or the whoever, you have the person who's in control of that individual and selling their body for their own personal profit. And whenever someone who is being sex trafficked is arrested, they have a rap sheet, and it's not as though that they're going after the pimp in any way. It's not that they're going after the John. They're not going after their trick. They're not going after the person who was paying for the sex. They're going after the person who was being sex trafficked. Now, this
Mhm.
is not to say that some like police precincts are not actually focusing on getting the pimps out of going after the pimps, because that does happen. That
Mhm.
definitely does happen, but you don't see too much of that because in the culture that we're in, we blame the victim quite often. We're going to place all of the hardship and accountability on the person who's being trafficked rather than the person who's trafficking them, or the person who's um, buying that product, from buying those services, buying this individual for their own personal needs. And like you said, this does lead to more rapes. This does lead to more murders, especially for those individuals who are on the extreme sick side of the taboo. When it does come to bodily injury and non-consensual acts and whatnot, and there sex workers in general are very unprotected. And when you have trafficking within that realm, it's extremely unprotected because they don't have systems in place to protect them until we actually take part and think about ways of building that system so that they have the proper protections, be it if you are someone who's doing OnlyFans or if you are someone who's being trafficked, finding ways to free those individuals, to make sure that they have their resources, to make sure that the people who were trafficking them have no way of getting in touch with them, making sure that their families are protected. All of these things, until we're willing to sit down and draft up those plans to put that system in place, sex workers in general will forever be unprotected, and that's a problem. And and when you think about when it comes to what we download or view on social media in terms of consuming in that way, it tends to make a trend of what people want to see. If the system see, if now I want to say system, the algorithm sees that these it's the incest fetish thing that I'm personally referring to, where certain people, even though the individuals within those within the video may not be related in any way, but they have the captions, oh, I'm sleeping with my mom's boyfriend, my dad's girlfriend, or my sister, my brother, my cousin, all these things. And because that is being looked at so frequently, you get a lot more of that, which means it becomes a marketing strategy, which means that's a way to get your content out there because this is what people are craving or what they're searching for. And it's just like we should be working towards shifting that system so that we're not, or shifting that algorithm so that we're not fetishizing or even overly sexualizing the act of incest, because that's essentially what's going on in that particular example. Or even when it comes to highly aggressive sexual acts, like I think about that video on that I saw on Instagram about the woman who was talking about how the language that we use referring to sex impacts our sexual experiences, from, like, you know, people saying, oh, I want somebody to beat this pussy up, I want you to pound the fuck out of me, and all this other stuff, and how that contributes to people having more rough sex. And with having more rough sex and not actually tending to the person's actual desires or needs, or they think that all individuals want to have rough sex or be pounded, want that extremely aggressive partner, you have a lot more situations where a person's sexual experience may be a lot more violent, and that was not the original intent. But that's because they have that belief that all women want to have their vaginas pounded, or even on the flip side, all bottoms want to have their assholes pounded, or whatever. Motherfuckers getting shit pounded, essentially. But like those kinds of messaging is impacted by what we consume. And I think that's also a flaw in education in terms of opening up that space to have those conversations, that not everybody wants this. This is a time to have a conversation on what sexual interest might be, and just, you know, going off of that.
Oh yes, you said everything that needed to be said, and I honestly agree with you on that. The media has a very invasive way of affecting people's eyes and what they consume. And I will say that I have been a witness to that. And I oftentimes have been a person that has been subjected to certain things that has happened.
The Holiloquy podcast focuses on the variability of sexual expression. When it comes to sexual expression, we often depend on pornography to illustrate how one must perform sexually. For those who have not learned this by now, the stuff you see in porn is not real. Pornography provides a singular perspective of sexual expression that is not often the reality we see during our own sexual encounters. The Holiloquy podcast is a conversation that takes you outside of the compressed box of what many know about sex. Some of the topics we discuss includes kinks, condom usage, status disclosure, and past sexual experiences. The Holiloquy podcast steps out on sexual norms and recognizes that the norm is not the only normal.
Subscribe today and join the conversation.
And I oftentimes have been a person that has been subjected to certain things that has happened. I will give you a brief story on this person I have met.
Mm.
So there was a guy. He was very off-putting. So he was actually in an open relationship. He was in a married relationship, but both individuals were aware that one person was seeking another person,
Mm.
basically. Now I understand and respect that, but there was a lot of discrepancies within the relationship. Now, from my understanding, I will be quite frank with you. These particular people were white. Now they're a white gay couple, and they said they have not had any kind of relations with black men in general. So they had just mentioned that they were more interested, I guess, with dealing with black men. I said, okay, understandable. And I just wanted to see where their mind was at, because oftentimes I have encountered certain people who have demonstrated certain kind of ways towards black people in general. And unfortunately, it was one of those situations.
Mm.
Now, while the one party, they were very open, they were very calm, they were quiet, they were very polite, they were extremely respectful towards me. This other person has expressed, how can I say it? Because when I think back in retrospect, it was hella disrespectful.
Mm.
So this guy, I quote, this is what he said. He said that he would like me be in his apartment and be the housemaid, be a houseboy. I
Mm.
would look at him crazy. Then not only that, not only went from there, he did not want any kind of sex at all. So what his primary thing was, he wanted to really just beat. That was his whole thing. I guess he got a kick out of abusing people actually, and
Mm.
I couldn't help but understand, bro, realize and notice that whoever he had done this with must have been someone else, because he did mention that he has dealt with certain men that were in an Atlanta area. So I had assumed that must have been where he must have this mentality. Now I do not talk to him to this day, but it has opened my eyes to see where people really do have a very messed up way of, I guess, gaining pleasure. Now, I'm not shaming anyone for that, but at the same time, when you put yourself in a situation where you are expressing some form of aggression that may end up compromising a person's ability to receive pleasure or feel desirable, I just have to draw the line on that. And I let him know that I was not interested in that at all, because that is not something I'm really with at all.
Mm. I get that. Like you said, it's not a thing of shaming, but if it is something that does compromise another person's sense of pleasure, then that's just not the thing to be going through. Most definitely, like I think of like I'm a huge fan of BDSM,
Mhm.
torture play, some of the abuse play, open to, but in those situations, that abuse is all consensual and is gradual. And if you're not willing to introduce that in small, you know, sessions with somebody, and you're just going out and your full attention is to actually make a person hurt and harm them, then you probably should not be in that space with a lot of people, unless that's somebody who really, really just wants to get beat up.
Exactly.
Find a boxer and enjoy that.
Oh yeah.
Even them, they are not in that profession to get hurt. They're in that profession to win, and they enjoy fighting. So it's
Hmm.
like find somebody who just likes to get beat on for pleasure, and even at that, acknowledge the fact that that's still something that needs to be built up, because you cannot just introduce to some completely new person that, oh, I want to punch you full fist with all the might that I have in my body. Hell no, I'm punching back.
Oh yeah. Exactly.
We're not. No, you have to move into that very, very slowly. And yeah, I don't know exactly how I would have responded in that situation, but I know of my current mentality, it would have been one
Hmm.
of those, yeah, we're not doing this.
Yeah, and
I'm
see,
out.
and I think, and I will be honest with you, I think I was really poking the beehive. The reason why I said that was because I was curious about how far would he take it. So I did try to know more about what is his reasoning behind it. It was just that he's a very sadistic kind of individual. He really was. And I
Mm,
think another thing was what I noticed between the dynamics within their relationship. They have a very dysfunctional relationship. I think it's to the point where he likes to be in control in general. And I think because he doesn't receive enough attention that he would like, as opposed to his spouse receives a lot of attention. I think to the point where he actually is jealous of that
mm,
because there has been plenty of times where his spouse has expressed that he can't even have no kind of hookups with anybody else because of the fact that he's always, as I quote, cock blocking. That's what he says. And I told him, well, I agree with you because he's very insecure about himself. And if he has to abuse someone in order to find meaning in being empowered, then that's not something that he should not be around. But
mm,
that my thing is this is not my place. But I did express that, that's the thing that you have to deal with,
mm.
not me. I don't have to deal with that.
Ain't
But
it?
like I said, personally, me, I would have to cut his dick off. I'm just being honest with
Oh
you.
my God. That was escalation. I was not ready for that.
I'm sorry. I was like, no.
Yeah, please don't be out here cutting dicks off. Please don't. Please don't.
Mm-mm.
Leave the
But no, but I did this.
relationship, people.
Mm-mm.
Leave the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Protect the dicks. Protect the dicks.
Folks always saying that, disregard that, disregard that.
I'm done. I'm done. What? But look, you being real. You being honest. So look, I accept it. But like, yeah, that is. I don't know what to say because
Yeah.
like when it comes to one, you cop blocking your own partner. My first thing, like, yeah, it's time for you to go ahead and get the fuck up out of here, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
because this is not a well balanced relationship. This your partner has insecurities that they need to deal with, and either help them deal with those insecurities or get the fuck out. And by helping them, I mean make sure that they get the therapy that they need and deserve.
Right.
But if they're not willing to work on themselves, get the fuck out because ain't no way. Mm-mm,
Mm-hmm.
mm-mm. We all deserve to have true happiness in our relationships because our partners are the people that we choose to be in relationships with. And if you feel as though that is incorrect, reevaluate your relationships.
Exactly.
Because look, call me Ash Ketchum, motherfucker, because I choose you. Mm-mm, mm-mm. Mm-mm. We are not. We're not demanding to be in relationships. We are not holding people into relationships. We're not holding people hostage in relationships. We are choosing to be with the person every single day. Is a choice. I understand there are some people who are trapped. I just pray that you find your escape. That's all I can say on that end. But other than that,
Yeah.
it's a choice. It is definitely a choice. Um, Now, another thing that we were talking about was like how there's the double standard related to sex workers.
Yes.
And I know a lot of that deals with how, like, for me, when I think of the double standard, I mostly come from the side of how are we to judge people for being open and honest and truthful in their sexual expression on camera, and many of us are not able to do that within our own bedroom with our own partners, or even we are having sex with our own partners, not on camera. So why judge those who do? Because we're all fucking out here.
Exactly. Exactly. You're right about that. There's a huge double standard on that because a lot of people, I feel like some of them feel like they're self-righteous. There are some people who feel self-righteous about that belief system, but there are some people, I will say in this aspect too, some people do see sex as something sacred. And I understand that it is something sacred because it's a sacred exchange of energy. So I know it's a sacred moment. And I do respect where they come from. However, don't put yourself in a place where you're judging someone and you can be easily judged as well. So I think that does need to be expressed as well because sex is not a secret. Sex is something that is universal. Everyone does it. And I think they should be able to be accepting of that and instead of passing judgment, learn from the experience because what I see from people who does it on camera is not only that they're open, but they're also vulnerable. They're receptive towards life itself. They just show how open minded that they are, and that's how it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. They are confident. There is everything to that nature. Also, it's a moment. Everybody don't realize sex is the you're living in the moment.
Mm.
And some people would like to relive that moment because anything can happen. So I do respect and understand why people like to be on camera and doing that. I don't have nothing against it.
Mm.
It's something very interesting. It's something very worthwhile. Some people just like that. So I think there's nothing wrong, or people should not be so quick to ridicule someone because of that. Because
Amen.
what you do in your bedroom is not what someone's going to be willing to do in their bedroom. Don't worry about it. If it's not going on in your bedroom, don't worry about it. But
Check.
yeah, that is a perfect example of double standards because some people do treat that they just I don't know.
No, you are speaking a word today, cause like
Yeah.
I be getting so bothered by the well, I used to get bothered. These days I'm just like I can tell that your sex life is very unhappy.
Oh
Uh
yeah.
but I used to get so bothered by the amount of hate I will see towards people who are in the sex work industry, and I'm just like, why are you upset? Like you said, a lot of sex workers are one confident, but being very vulnerable, because to be a sex worker and as well show your face, show your body, show your appendages, your private areas, you are exposing yourself to so many people to look upon your body. And some may love what they see and some may hate what they see, and you have to deal with all of that every time you produce any kind of content.
Right.
And that level of vulnerability is something that most people aren't brave enough to step into. Not saying that they have to, but you
Right.
still have to respect that that is still a moment of bravery. That in the culture that we live in, that they're because we have to ascribe these labels to everybody. They are activists in this moment. You
Oh
might as well
yeah.
say they
They
are.
are.
They're making a message. They with their work. They are making statements. They are doing things that other people find uncomfortable, but they love to indulge in, or they are, like you said, like we were talking about, consuming on a regular
Mhm.
basis. Like, don't act like this is something completely new when you were just watching it last night. And on
Right.
on top of that, I hate the fact that um sex work does get a very negative rap when it comes to what someone may be doing off hours, like outside of like the typical 9 to 5 job. Like if I'm a teacher, or if I'm a professor, if I am a clergyman, and if I'm an administrator, CEO, whatever the position is, and I'm doing sex work on the side, if you see this the videos, why are you trying to make sure I get fired for doing things that adults can do? You make the statement
Mhm.
because my children might see your videos. Why do you not have parental control on your internet? Why do you not have these things to block that content from your children so that they are unable to view it? Why don't you know how to utilize those things on your services that you have to prevent your child being exposed to anything that you don't want them to see? That is your choice as a parent in that moment, or your
Mhm.
choice as a consumer if you don't have kids to not indulge in that content. It does not impact what I do during my 9 to 5 job. This is me working on my free time. Are you going to say I need to get fired for having a completely separate job that does not expose my body? Are you going to tell me I need to resign from my job because I'm working from Uber as a second job? No, but you feel as though you have the right that to say I need to be fired solely because I'm doing sex work on the side. Fuck out of here.
I agree. And this is another thing that really rattles me. People fail to realize that as humans, we're multidimensional. So we have very much different ways of expressing ourselves. And there are different ways that we have to advocate for ourselves. And we have to realize that the problem is, and I think this is what's going on within Western society, they are so fixated on, they have tunnel vision. They are fixated on one point of view of a person
Mm,
because that thing with them is something that they idolize the most. But if it's something that I'm gonna be honest with you. There's sometimes that if there's something that they really like to the point it's a point of obsession. And if they despise that, they're gonna find some type of way to demonize it and turn it to something even less than what it actually is. Basically, they're gonna make an anthill out of a mountain, basically.
Mm,
That's the point that I have met many people. Many people expect you to be one dimensional, while the person themselves are multidimensional. So yes, the person is an instructor. Yeah, they definitely know how to educate people, but they probably even better at educating people in bed. Probably they're good at sex in bed. And what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that.
not a
That's just
damn.
their that's just on their part. That's just on their time. They just have to realize and respect that. But the problem is people around here have tunnel vision, and I have met many people who are like that. So it's quite unfortunate because they just want to see you as a person that they would like to see,
Child,
not what you want them to see yourself as, but what they want to see.
you better have me acting up because that is the one thing that I I hate so much in like the Western civilization mindset is the monolithic behavior or belief system that we often try to ascribe to a lot of people as though, like you said, are as though we are not multidimensional. Like
Mhm.
that's why we get the concept that all Black people are supposed to be this one thing, and we've been arguing that fact that we are not a monolith and stop trying to make us that. And
Exactly.
but that is the culture that we live in, where you have to be a certain image, and that image is quite frankly provided by the white straight man. Or even when it comes to queer spaces, it's still within the guise or under the lens of the straight white man. And look, this is something that I am researching independently, is how, like, when it comes to porn, we still operate in those spaces, most definitely when it comes to like well produced pornography, where everything has a heterosexual undertone. Why you might see a lot more feminine bottoms in the porn space and masculine tops, because that is the interplay that people are used to rather than the opposite.
Right.
Or
Exactly.
you might see when it comes to trans porn, um, um, you'll have mostly trans women who are still penis owners that are topping or penetrating masculine men, is not in a way to emasculate or anything like that, but it's easier to see that as pegging rather than having the female or how to word this properly, a vulva owner.
I see that as a security blanket, honestly. That oftentimes that's why I usually coin that as security blanket.
What?
Whenever men oftentimes want to deal with men who are more feminine in nature, which
Hmm.
is nothing wrong with that, I oftentimes would say that they use their feminine the men they use emasculate men as a form of security blanket because that gives them comfort in knowing that they're dealing with someone who's feminine. And that
Mm,
does reinforce that conditioning that we grew up on that is supposed to be normal because that's the normal way of society viewing.
mm,
So that's why oftentimes when I encounter men who oftentimes will like to say, "Oh, you'll be even better if you're in a dress," or just say certain things like that. I'm like, well, you know what? This is not gonna work because you're not gonna sit here and continue to emasculate me. If I want to dress the way I want to dress, I'll dress like that because it's my
mhm.
personal choice. But don't
Right.
sit here and do something such as trying to emasculate me simply because you're not secure in your own sexuality. So
Mm,
basically, you're so quick to emasculate me through doing things such as making me into someone more feminine, when clearly you're the one with the issue because
amen.
you're just using me as a security blanket. You're using the feminine items as a way to help you feel more secure and make you feel more comfortable in what you're doing or what you feel ashamed of doing. So
Mm,
yeah, it is. I noticed that people don't really realize most men will do that because it's a security blanket for them. It makes them feel
mhm.
secure.
And granted, I am so appreciative of the show and I love its purpose. The show Pose. It wasn't until after that show came out and things became a lot more mainstream about, supporting trans women and trans men and whatnot. Before then, I always saw well, not always, the majority of times of me exploring some of these sex related apps, I will still see, the no fats, no films, no old people kind of thing. And um, uh, I also see the statements that if I wanted a woman, I'll date one, to
Ooh.
double down on the fact that they don't want anything that's feminine. They really want masculine. And
Mm-hmm.
then there was I swear, after Pose, after like season 2, I start seeing a lot more people opening up, which I'm happy for, to experiencing sex with trans men and trans women.
Mm-hmm.
But these same individuals are like only trans, only yeah, just only trans. Which, if that is your preference, that is perfectly fine. I'm not judging you on that. But I'm like, what made this shift happen? Again, I'm happy for that shift, but
Mm-hmm.
is it, like you said, for the security blanket that, okay, I'll actually, that show that with Dominique, what's her name on there? What's her name?
Alexa.
Electra. Electra. When Electra was in the penthouse with her sponsor, oh dude literally said he wants her to keep her penis because he loves the fact that he's getting away with something that other people don't know. And I feel as though that is
Mhm.
something similar to why a lot more men within queer spaces are more leaning towards trans people now, is because they want that little secret of
Mhm.
getting away with something. And I hope that if that is their purpose, that they actually shift their mindset and appreciate
Mhm.
their trans partner for who they are, and not
Right.
as an actual secret, because that's a disrespect towards them and who they are. Because you should be proud of who your partner is, regardless of, just because they can pass in public and people don't know that they're dicking you down at home. That's inappropriate. That is disrespectful in
It
my
is.
eyes.
It
Uh,
is.
but I don't know how we got. Oh, we were talking about dimensions,
Oh yeah.
and like, and I think in relation to that, like the monolith mindset, even within queer spaces, there was a point where everyone was trying to say all studs have to be the same, all femme have to be the same, saying studs can't date studs, film can't date film. Of course, Black LGBT, just like fuck whatever the hell y'all are talking about, because the amount of film relationships I saw, the stud relationships I saw, the stud film,
Mhm.
at least within those spaces, it was beautiful. I loved seeing it.
Right.
But inside of the male queer spaces, it was a little bit Black male queer spaces. It was a lot sticking with that same. Well, I wasn't sticking with it, but I've noticed a lot more of sticking with that monolithic idea that all bottoms are supposed to be this, all tops supposed to be this,
Mhm.
all verse can do whatever they want to do. And then that was, and I will say, even to this day, I have not seen any shake in that belief. A lot of people are still trying to hold true to that monolithic aspect of sexual expression. I'm just like, why are y'all so limited? We are within the
And what?
LGBTQ plus community. Why are we not educating ourselves on sexuality? What have you all been doing these years?
And I agree because actually, what's so crazy about it is that sex itself is actually very fluid.
It
It's
is.
very fluid because think about it, we're exchanging fluid, saliva, secretions, anything, sperm, anything like that. People don't really equate it to like the fluidity of sex itself.
Hmm.
And that's why I say, why should you treat it as something that's just something monolithic? You don't supposed to treat it like that. Just treat it as how it is. It's supposed to be flowing. It's supposed to be free flowing, for freedom of expression. That's how it should be. But unfortunately, people cannot get with that because they're not really ready to step out of their comfort zone. They're not really to explore that. And I think that's really sad and very telling with some of the people that are in certain spaces because of the how they express themselves with their belief systems.
Hmm.
That's why oftentimes you have a lot of discrepancies with people like that because it's not oftentimes it's not the other person, it's them within themselves.
Mm.
because they're going against that. They're going against what they have been taught. They're going against what they feel like that's going something that's going to create some kind of chaos within them. So oftentimes it's not the other person, it's just them. It's just a personal issue. And that's why I had to learn the hard way, because oftentimes I would take it personal, but I'm starting to learn slowly that these people have their preferences because it's what they have been raised on. And then
Mm.
not only that, they don't have a mind of their own. They're like sheep. If you cannot even have the audacity to challenge what you have been taught, then why are you in my presence? I don't
Ooh,
have no need for you.
ooh, ooh, Lord, Oh, you spoke to some part inside of me in that moment. Oh my God. You said if you are not willing to think for yourself, essentially, why are you in my presence? But really though, there's a lot of sheeple out here. It is a
Mhm.
lot of sheeple. And even so there's this one person that I recently found on my freak Twitter, and I'm like, oh my God, you are very attractive. I like you.
Ooh,
And they live in Atlanta, and I'm like, let me join in on this hoeing that we have, and reached out to this person to engage in, conversation, let them know that I actually find you very attractive, and I wouldn't mind pulling up on you and see what kind of fun things we could do. And I
right.
also want to play video games with you too. Like we could do all these things. What's up? But even having a conversation with them about, I brought up, okay, would you like to discuss sexuality, like what we like? And they didn't know how to respond to it. And I'm like, okay, now I have to have this. And I even offered, I don't mind letting you know my likes and dislikes, but I
Right.
hope me exposing you to this stuff, or letting you know this, makes you reflect and think about, oh, what is it that I really do like when I do have sex with other people? Because like I even told them, I'm not trying to pull up and not have a consensually pleasurable, well, I can't, well, definitely it's going to be consensual, but
Right.
mutually pleasurable sexual experience with anybody, because I've done that before. It's old, and I'm tired of mediocre. I don't want it. I want to have pleasure in my sexual encounter. Like I even posted on my little freak Twitter account. I was like, look, I've had more pleasurable sexual encounters with other bottoms than I had with verse and top motherfuckers. Like that's the problem.
On a side note, I'm gonna be honest with you. On a side note, not trying to disturb you, but bottoms are very much more. I would say they will give you a good time. They'll give you a great time.
hmm Like mofo, step your game up. What are y'all doing? What are you doing? And I love it here. If you can't beat where I'm
Mhm.
at, then you're not going to win me over. It's fun here. I'm having fun. Uh, but like that, well, to transition into something else that we were talking about in our intake meeting before we wrap up the show and whatever, and go to the questions. We were talking about the different dimensions related to being a sex worker, and that's
Mhm.
mostly in terms of like how there are different things that it's not just being on the pole, it's not just being a victim of sex trafficking. That's something completely separate, of course. And then there is not about being somebody who's in adult filmmaking. It's a very diverse thing. Um, what are some of the dimensions that you yourself are aware of when it does come to like sex workers?
That's a very good question, because I'm gonna be honest with you. I want to become more educated on it myself, because
Mhm.
honestly speaking, oftentimes when you listen to other people and their perspective on it, it's not something that's sometimes some people, not all people, they only express their dislikes, their bias towards it. They don't ever provide a full range of ideas or depth to what they think, because of the fact that it just validate through their own opinions.
Mm,
I need education. I need knowledge to know what is going on. And that's one of the things I always want to educate myself on the whole thing with racial disparities, on what people who are more likely to come to do themselves, to commit to doing sex work. Also, I would like to learn more about what form of empowerment, what ways do it help them empower themselves in some aspects?
I like that. Well, let's see what I have. Well, in terms of like on the education side, there's like you have actually sex education is I'll say a niche within sex work. So that is definitely something that I personally consider sex work. Sex coaching is definitely sex work, even if you are only focusing on body work. That's also sex work. And when I say body work, I'm meaning more not necessarily massage, because that does fall under the category of body of sex work. I mean, of body work. But in terms of the sex work side, is helping people understand their bodies more as it relates to sex. That
Right.
can be learning different techniques to masturbate yourself. It can be having ownership in your body. One of the things, if I actually start building this workshop or this retreat, is to have a retreat where myself and my guests go through the phases of bodily autonomy, going from, group counseling session. Actually, that's going to be last. What is it? Start with a foot massage, then full body massage, acupuncture, then a nice bath. Um, that way you've already worked on the body side of things, and then it switches over to the spiritual and mental side. So group counseling session or coaching session, whichever one. um Reiki to work on your energy, and then after that, just a full play party. But there's also going to be other things in there. But that is also something that can be considered as sex work too.
Mhm.
You have, I think I already said sex coaching. You have also, like I mentioned earlier, the entertainment side of things. Um, what else is very broad. It's a very broad field that a lot of people often don't, focus
Yeah,
on.
and yeah, because I'm not gonna lie to you, that was one of the things that I want to be more educated on myself because I know it's very broad and a lot of people underestimate it. They just think it's just about sex. No, it's more than that. It's more to it than that. That's why did not know what to exactly place with that.
Hmm.
So I do want to learn as I go.
Yeah. Oh, I just remembered.
Hmm.
Uh, Making dildos is a part of sex work too.
Oh, actually, I wanted to learn how to make that myself because you can't make it out of soap. You can't make it into soap.
Mm. Ooh, that would. Ooh, you now. Not that you're giving me ideas of things. We'll talk about this after the call. People gonna be
Yes,
like,
because actually I had thought of some ideas behind that. I
mhm.
thought like, ooh, I said I kind of like this. I said, ooh, and also,
Yes.
ooh, one more thing. Not trying to get you too caught up with it, but well, maybe I am. But okay, like you can make. Also, I thought about this. Like you know how some people like make Jello shots and things like that. I also thought about something related to like making a dildo shot, where you can actually like make a jelly filled dildo with like with
Mm.
liquor in it or something like that. I was just thinking of different ideas just to have fun with it because I think there's a lot you can do.
It is. Now, I don't know for sure that exists. It might, but it might not.
Mhm.
But hey, I'm here
They
for it.
got
Do
gummy.
it.
They got gummy dildos.
Hmm.
Gummy. So yeah, anything possible.
Anything's possible. Look, I was thinking about, a dick syringe just to facilitate that.
Right.
Look, just be looking at people taking a shot out of a dick syringe is just funny.
Hmm.
So now that we're taking shots out of dick syringes and whatnot, let's see what else we have not done yet. With a little bit of never have I ever. Are you ready?
Ooh, I'm ready.
All right. Never have I ever. Well, I know I have on this one. Sorry. Never have I ever had sex while I was really drunk.
I have never done that. I'm not much of a drinker, and plus, the times that I have actually drunk something, I don't know. I just don't feel intoxicated.
Mm, I feel you. That sounds like you have a very high tolerance for alcohol.
Yeah,
honestly.
because I because I was like, and I actually tried, and I'm like, oh, I can't do this. I guess because I don't have no kind of desire to be drunk or something. I don't know
Mhm.
what it is. It may be a mind thing, but I guess because of that, I just can't experience the whole thing of being drunk when people talk about it. I was like, oh well, I don't know what the hell y'all talking about. Yeah, we speaking a whole different language.
Look,
I was like, I said, good for y'all though. God damn.
I will say it's not worth it.
Hmm.
I know I've drank a lot in the past and had my fill. It's just like I don't want to be super drunk. I never actually wanted to be super drunk until I wanted
Right,
to like keep up with everybody else.
right.
And that's how I learned I have a very high tolerance. But I will rather just be chill. I love a good margarita though. I love to
Hmm.
just go to a place, have a couple of drinks, and just be great and just be happy. But the drinks don't have to always be there. Like I even know once I do settle down and start raising kids and whatnot, I don't plan on going to any restaurants that have alcoholic beverages with my children because I don't want them to be around that.
Right.
Um, which means there's a lot of restaurants that just serve alcohol, which annoys me. But I feel like those spaces with alcohol there are not the proper places for kids, because I don't want to socialize my kids of thinking that's the only way that you have fun.
Hmm.
I want to make sure that they know that you have a lot more, and that's pretty much how I was before I start drinking. Is
Hmm.
to go out and enjoy myself, to have fun without the influence of alcohol. And it's really not, it doesn't really, for myself, it never really, well, okay, sometimes it did enhance the fun that I was having, but not too often. It's great to play drinking games, I'm not going to lie,
Hmm.
but getting super drunk is not the move. The concept of binge drinking is horrible. It's unhealthy, extremely
Hmm.
unhealthy. But like well balanced control while drinking and having a good time with your friends, oh yeah, do that shit. It's fun, but not to get drunk. Um,
Hmm.
so another one. Never have I ever had sex in a quiet public location, such as a library or a museum.
My sex life is boring. I have not done that. Only time that I had sex somewhere would probably be in someone's basement,
Mm,
and their brother was actually living. They were actually up. So.
mm. I I wanted a basement when I grow up, honest. When I grow up, like I'm not already a whole ass adult. When I get the finances to do so, I do want a basement. But outside of that, I've had public sex before. It was at a park. I've also, so there was this time when I was just, a little bit of exhibitionist, and I did not whip it out or anything. I did not. There was nobody else around me. These were the days of the beautiful and wonderful Tumblr porn. Oh my God.
Oh yes, I remember those days. I remember.
So during those days, those beautiful days, I was at the school library. I was also like, I think I was 19 at the time, but I was at the school library. Was supposed to be doing homework, and then I was like, you know what? Let's go on to Tumblr because I don't know what it is that got me all kinds of Renzi, baby. Got me feeling some type of way. So I log into Tumblr, went to my favorite porn account, and start, scrolling down, looking at stuff. And I'm looking over my corner of the computer, like, okay, nobody's in here, nobody's around, nobody can see me. I minimized the screen a little bit to where you can't really see everything that's there, but you can see some stuff. And I kind of just rubbed myself off, like above my pants and whatever, until I came. And that was actually a very exciting moment in my life.
Oh my. I have to try that. Oh.
Would I try again? No. I,
Oh
I,
yeah.
I'm in my adult ages.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot better. Know better and do better. Now, if it was a library that's funded by sex workers and whatnot for the purposes of doing stuff like that, then of course I'd be up in there every fucking day.
I'm surprised they have not done that by now. I think they can do a lot of research behind that.
Look, I agree. This is why people know I cannot look. If I'm a billionaire,
Mm-hmm.
there will be a lot of sex focused things.
Mm-hmm.
I will love to purchase a whole town that's its only purpose is to dive deep into sexual expression. Everything's
Mm-hmm.
consensual, and you understand that from the moment you come in. Nobody can gain entrance that's under the age of 21, actually under the age of 25, because 21-year-olds be acting up.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure your brain is fully developed.
Right.
No one under the age of 25, and it's just enjoying yourself. We have adult workers, we have all of that great stuff. Education, it's gonna be a thing, y'all. It's gonna be a thing. Y'all heard it first on the Soliloquy podcast. It's gonna be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, would you like a sex question?
Yes, that's fine. I don't mind.
All right. Have you ever had a one night stand? If yes, how many?
Oh no. So I gotta tell my body count. Oh.
Look, I don't even remember my body count. I stopped at 10.
Oh yeah, cause I had plenty. So especially up in a different state up north. Oh God, that was very interesting. Ah, yeah, I did have one night stand. The one I mentioned earlier, that was one of them.
Mm,
The other one, let's see. Now this one was actually about a month ago, but this was actually in Augusta. Now we have not ever spoke to each other again. Now he had made several attempts to contact me as far as wanting to link up, but because our schedule kept conflicting, I couldn't link up with him no more.
mm,
So it was unfortunate because he was actually one of my favorites, but that's neither here or there. But most of my one night stands, they were actually pretty bummy. I'm not gonna lie to you, they were pretty bummy. There
damn.
was yeah, they were pretty bummy. The one that I remember from one was the time when it was about a year ago, and this was actually during the holiday season. And the reason why I said it was kind of bummy because the fact that the guy was very rushed. He was rushing me for one. So it really kind of just messed up everything for me. I just was not feeling it or anything like that. And it was not all like what I was expecting. So I think that's why I was just not as excited as I was about it. So I don't know.
Hmm. Well, I will say for myself, I've had plenty. Don't have look, I like I said, I stopped doing my body count after 10, and that
Mm-hmm.
10 happened like within the year after I lost my virginity. So the body count just doesn't exist. Divide the shit by zero. It does not exist. But I would say, I whenever I do actually hook up with people, it is with the intent that there will be another go round. Because sometimes you might not have that A1 energy at the time.
Right.
So it's like, if not, we could see what happens the next time we meet up. I don't mind giving somebody a second chance. If the second chance is a fail, it's just like, yeah, it's just not going to work out, fam. But but essentially, if it's something bummy that I'm just like, yeah, this just absolutely cannot happen again, I don't entertain it.
Mm-hmm.
I like those are the most disappointing sexual experiences, and if I don't count you in my body like an additional body, just know that you will never get another chance with me. Like it's yeah. Mm-mm.
I completely understand.
Like there's been a few, and I realized I think this was in 2018 or something. 2018. Yeah, it was 2017, 2018, one of those years that whenever I have, okay, whenever I have a very, very good sexual experience, I'm more thirsty than hungry. So I probably might want to get something to drink. Now, if it's a horrible sexual experience and I did not appreciate it, my thing before I recognize this with myself would be to go grab something to eat, and look just so that meal could be a little bit more satisfying than the sex I just had.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And once I realized that, I was like, damn, subconscious me is hella disrespectful because wow.
Oh.
Like, who does that? That's not okay, Vernon. But I don't do that anymore, I think. I don't. I don't. I haven't. I haven't done that recently. So yeah, there's that. On that note, now that people realize, oh my God, Vernon, you was low-key a little bit brutal. Oh my.
Mhm.
Now that that is out there, do you have any last words that you'd like to share with the audience?
I would like to say thank you so much for tuning in to this current podcast. I would like to wish y'all a happy and great day and stay safe and just stay well and just sexually enlightened.
Yes. Oh, and speaking of sexual enlightenment, y'all motherfuckers better remember that November is coming up. There's going to be some special shit coming out for y'all. A lot of fun, a lot of conversations and greatness. Season 1 is coming to an end, and guess what? We got season 2 coming up next year. Y'all motherfuckers better get the fuck ready. On that note, thank you all so much for listening to the Holiloquy podcast, where we step out and speak about sexuality. Just in case no one else told you this today, you are beautiful. You are worthy of joy and happiness. You are enough and then some. You may not live up to the expectations of others, but that is okay. You are only required to walk in your own shoes. May each day you live lead you towards abundance. With that said, love you all and see you next episode. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Holiloquy podcast, where we step out and speak on sexuality. You can subscribe to the podcast through your favorite podcasting app and find us on the web at www.holiloquy.com. That's www.heauxliloquy.com. Share the podcast with your friends and join the conversation.